Hi guys, Michael with the Open Book Build here. So purchasing the land to build your dream home on is the first big step in realizing your dreams. I'm picturing a beautiful wooded lot on a quiet cul-de-sac, or maybe a gorgeous lakefront home with a view. Whatever your dreams are, it's totally possible to achieve an inspiring place to live. So one of the things that we talk about here in the course on how to build a home is the very important checks needed before purchasing the land to build on. All right guys, here we are out at the lot for the Open Book Build, and I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that you want to look at to make sure that you avoid potential problems when you're looking at lots. So for this lot, this was actually a tear down, so there are some things that we've avoided automatically with that, and I'll talk to you about that here in a little bit. But one of the things you want to consider when you're looking at potential lots are the public sidewalks. That's the responsibility of the owner building the house, and it can get quite expensive depending on how much lineal footage you have of your lot up against the roadway. Most municipalities require the public walk and can be 4 to 5 feet wide. And if, let's say, you're a corner lot and you have 200 feet of lineal footage, that can be anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 for just a public sidewalk to be installed, which really doesn't add a whole lot of value to your home. Another important thing to review when you're looking at potential lots to build on would be the utilities to the lot. In this case, as I said, it's a tear down, so we've got all the utilities here. The one exception is it was an older home and they didn't have storm connections at that time, so this community requires all the downspouts to be installed and tied into the storm system for the public storm sewer, and that's one thing that we'll probably have to tap into here, but everything else is on the lot side, so we can get to them. This is really important for you to look at, because if you have to bring utilities to the lot and they're not already there, that can get really expensive and may not even be possible in some situations. So obviously we want electric for our home here. We've got overhead power lines at the street, so we're going to bring those down the pole and then underground to the house. You might also have a transformer like this on the lot lines, another way they bring power in. Buried cable, we want to make sure we have that for TV, telecommunications, and high-speed internet. You want access to those, as well as either natural gas service, or you're going to need propane underground, sanitary sewer, or an underground septic tank, and then water supply. And here's a shutoff in the public sidewalk out at the roadway for the water. We also want to consider any trees that need to be cleared from properties under consideration. Tree cutting and stump grinding can cost anywhere from $1,000 up to $10,000 if the trees are close to adjacent structures and need to be climbed. The other consideration would be the size of the trees and how much work is involved in removal. The other thing we want to review is the size of the lot. So having more space around the home will allow us to respread the spoils coming out of the excavation for the foundation. This is a deep basement and a pretty good size footprint for the foundation. So we want to make sure we've got plenty of space. A half acre or larger is probably going to make it so that you don't have to truck the excess dirt off site, which can get expensive, but it's not a deal breaker. So one of the things that we talk about here in the course on how to build a home is the very important checks needed before purchasing the land to build on. I made a rather large boneheaded mistake when buying the land for the Open Book Build, and I'm going to tell you this story even though it bruises my ego just a little bit, so that you guys won't make the same mistake. And let me tell you, the mistake cost me thousands of dollars. So we have a detailed lot purchase checklist in the Open Book Build kit, but for some reason I chose not to use it. You know how airline pilots go through a checklist prior to each and every takeoff, and they do this so they won't forget anything? Even though they've done it 100 or 1,000 times, they still go through the pre-flight checklist. And thank goodness, right? But for some reason, I didn't stick to the purchase checklist. So one of the checklist items is to review the utilities present on the lot. The sewer, the water, the telecommunications, and the natural gas, those types of utilities. So the lot I was looking at for the Open Book Build was an empty lot that previously had a home on it. So the home was torn down a couple years prior to me purchasing it. So my assumption was, because there used to be a home on the lot, it must have all the utilities, right? I did get confirmation on the location and depth of the sanitary sewer service. This is very important because the home, if it doesn't have a service connection on the lot, it can get very expensive to tie into. Why? Because the sanitary sewer is typically under the road. so getting to it can be very expensive, and the house was located on, or the lot was located on a very busy road, so we didn't want to do that. But there wasn't a problem with that. The connection for the sanitary sewer was on the lot. So what I later found was the storm sewer connection was missing. So you might be saying to yourself, why is there a storm sewer connection? Well, this particular community in northern Ohio has a lot of clay soil, which is a very poor draining soil. So if you put roof downspouts out onto the lawn, it can really add to flooding in the neighborhood when heavy storms come through. And let me tell you, Cleveland gets a whole lot of rain, right? So I assumed the house that was previously on the lot had connected to the storm sewer like every other house in the city. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case. Because the home was built prior to that requirement being implemented to connect the downspouts to the city storm sewer, they were grandfathered in to the old way of doing things. So you might be saying to yourself, so what? Just connect it and be done with it. Well, the big issue is the lot was located on a state road that has quite a bit of traffic. So no sewer contractor wanted to touch the job because they're required to do traffic control and have special insurance to cover work in the high traffic zones. So needless to say, the small affordable contractors wanted nothing to do with this job. So I had to find a sewer contractor that does large subdivision work to handle the project. Okay, so you might be saying, great, you're all set. Not so fast. Remember how much it costs to install those city sidewalks? These are the responsibility of the new homeowner if the lot doesn't have them. Well, lot that we looked at here had the public walks, which saved us about $2,000. And this was part of our purchase decision. Unfortunately, to install the new storm sewer connection at the street, we needed to remove a large section of the city sidewalk, put in traffic control, and then core into a 24-inch storm sewer pipe. So here's a picture of the piece we removed from the storm sewer pipe after tapping in the service lateral. This was the other reason most small contractors didn't want to touch this project. If the pipe cracked, the big 24-inch storm sewer pipe cracked when they core drilled into it, we would have had to have replaced that pipe, a section of that pipe, 24 inches in diameter, which would have been a really ugly piece of work. So the good news is everything went well, and the storm sewer got installed without a problem. No cracks in the pipe. So how much did this little oversight of mine cost? The fact that we had to tap the storm sewer main at the street and replace that piece of sidewalk cost us about $5,000. Ouch, right? If we had known the storm sewer tie-in wasn't on the lot, we could have negotiated this out of the purchase price with the seller. So that would have saved us some money from the get-go that we could have applied toward this little project. So the moral of this story is stick to the lot purchase checklist without skipping any items. Even though it seems like an easy answer or an obvious answer, always stick to it. And always ask, are the utility connections on the lot? Not just to the lot or near the lot, but on the lot. So I know most of you will be looking at building lots for your dream home soon if you haven't purchased one already. And of course, you can pay whatever you want since we live in such a great free country. But if you're concerned about resale, and most of you probably should be, it's kind of important to think about how much the lot should cost before you start looking. So I thought I would give you some insight as to what the typical lot cost is per total market value for new homes being built today. I've looked up the most recent cost data from the National Association of Home Builders, called the NAHB, to give you a look at current lot pricing. Before I get into the details, I need to say that this cost analysis was put together from surveys of 49 different builders across the country. And the average lot size was 22,094 square feet, which is about half of an acre. So if you're thinking of building on a larger piece of land with multiple acres, these percentages most likely won't apply to your circumstances. Also, the average house built by these builders was 2,594 square feet of finished floor space, with a final market value of $485,000, and all of this data was based on homes built in 2019. So, if we look at the cost of the lot as a percentage of the market value of the home built, it came in at 18.5%. So if you're building a home in a neighborhood with resale homes selling for $300,000, you may want your lot cost to be approximately $55,000. This would line up with the National Association of Home Builders average lot costs. And this would leave you with $245,000 to build your new dream home. So let's look at another example. Let's say you paid $100,000 for your lot in a neighborhood of $300,000 homes. This would leave you with $200,000 to build your new home in order to keep your home at a similar value to the rest of the neighborhood. Remember, appraisals are performed by looking at neighboring properties that have recently sold, so your home's value will be affected by this. So if you paid $100,000 for your lot and the house cost $200,000 to build, based on building costs of $114 per square foot, you would have a home that's 1,754 square feet. Now you might want to compare this square footage to the neighbors to see how it stacks up for resale. If the neighboring homes are selling for $300,000 and have 2,500 square feet, you probably are overpaying for the lot at $100,000. So does your particular house lot combination need to meet these percentages? Not necessarily. It's just good to have a rule of thumb to be able to review lots against so you don't price yourself and your home out of the market. I can tell you when we built the Open Book Build home this year, the lot cost was a higher percentage at 23% of the final market value. So you don't always fall within that range. 18.5% is a good rule of thumb. 20 is a great rule of thumb that's lasted for years. So if you keep your lot at a 20%, somewhere in that neighborhood, 20 to 23, 25, you should be in good shape. Again, if you're looking at bigger properties that have much more, maybe you're an oceanfront or a lakefront or something very unique about the property, then most of these percentages probably won't apply. So one last major thing I'll share with you today is zoning. Each property has a zoning classification that dictates what can be built on it. You want the property to be zoned residential or possibly agricultural as long as it'll allow a house to be built on it. It's very important to stop by the local building department or zoning department to determine whether a given property can have a house built on it. I was recently contacted by an owner builder that bought a very expensive property, had plans drawn, and then found it was a multifamily zoning with 6 units or more. This mistake cost him tens of thousands of dollars and a massive headache. So to learn more about all the details about buying land to build your dream home and how to become the general contractor for your own home, check out our Owner Builder online course at ownerbuilderclass.com.